Hi, everyone. Are you ready to be fired up? Because I sure am. We've got Meghan Harrison. She's an online course expert. She's worked with people like Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. And if you don't know who they are, you absolutely should, because they are amazing just like her. So sit back and let's get ready to be fired up. Hi, Meghan. Thanks so much for being here. Super happy to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So Meghan's house is so cute. And her background, she's like got all the really cute colors, and she knows all about decor, that's for sure. So if you are in real estate, we all know how much we love that. And even if you're not, you know how much we love decor as well. So talk to us. So you are a very successful young woman, and you've just done some amazing things. I kind of like to talk a little bit about your journey, where you started out, where you came from, and where you are now.
Yeah, thanks. So in my other life, I say, hey, I was in a hospital administration for about 5 years, something completely different. So I was pre-med in college, and I decided I didn't want to become a doctor. I like the idea of becoming a doctor more than actually becoming a doctor. So I switched it to more of the business route, and it was great. I had so much, I learned so much through working for a huge company like HCA that's really translated really well into the entrepreneurial world. But after about 5 years, it just got a little bit mundane. And so it was actually after going to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within that I decided to make the leap to start my own business. So that's why it's kind of surreal for me to now have him as a client. Super exciting. But I learned how to start a business through online courses. So just Googling how to start a business, legit. That's how naive I was. And through the power of retargeting and that Facebook marketing and advertising, I came across people like Marie Forleo and Amy Porterfield and Pat Flynn. And I really learned the fundamentals of starting a business through these programs. And so I know how much of an impact it made on my life. And I also now see the impact that it can make on the entrepreneur's life, from financial freedom and just the ability to make an impact and leave a legacy. So I am extremely passionate about the opportunity that exists now through productizing your expertise and being able to reach so many more people than we ever would have been able to without this modality.
So how long have you been doing this?
About 7 years now.
That's a long time. So, you definitely were an early adopter of online courses, because, they've been around for a long time. But really, I would say over the past 4 years, they've become more popular, and they're getting more and more popular, as you know, just every minute of the day. It's like now everyone's has an online something, right? So
yeah, well, especially with the circumstances, it was people had to go from overnight. It might have been on their list of things to do, and now it became I need to do as in yesterday type of priority. But yeah, so let me correct that. I started my business about 7 years ago, and I think 4 years where it was solely online course design and development. So slowly niched further and further, and then stuck with that.
The online visit. So you mentioned that you're working with Tony Robbins. So you were at Unleash the Power Within, and I'm sure your mind is going, wouldn't it be awesome to work with him one day, right? It seems like this big dream, and now you are there. So kind of talk to us about the journey. How did that happen? That just seems so surreal.
It really is. And if you do believe in the power of manifestation or just visualization, I've told people since the day I left UPW, or I guess when I started my business, which was only 6 months after UPW, that Tony and I were going to work together one day. He just didn't know it yet. And that we were going to create products and courses and programs. And so it was, they actually reached out to me, his team and Dean's team. So I couldn't even tell you, I didn't even do anything special. I wasn't okay. They came across me through other clients that I've worked with, and just I guess there's not that many people that do what I do, at least on the level. More specialized in premium flagship programs. So aesthetics, as you mentioned earlier, has always been important to me. And so when clients are not usually creating their first course, but they're ready to take their course that they're already seeing an ROI in, or they have the budget and the business foundation to invest right away, then that's when they would come to a company like mine, versus not really starting out, just first-time course creators. So that's where Dean and Tony fit so well.
So you basically take someone that already has a course, and then kind of that's doing well, doing great, and enhancing it, making the user experience better, making it aesthetically the way it looks better, all of that.
Yeah. So because there isn't a right answer for the best platform to use or the best way to create your course. It depends on where you are in your business. And so if you're just creating your first product, you haven't really validated it, there's no reason in investing $10,000 to $50,000 on a professionally designed course. Rather get get a minimal viable product out there, just like anything in business. Like speed of implementation is extremely important, but then there's a balance of you want to also creating a program that actually gets your customers results.
Mm-hmm.
But then after you do, like once you have validated it, once you have the revenue coming in and you do see that this is something that's not just going to go into the digital library or something, like something that's actually going to be a revenue generating asset for you, then why not invest in actually making it represent like the quality of your brand? So look the part, enhance the user experience so you can also increase the customer lifetime value and repeat purchases from the customers. So there's so much more that you can dive in on the strategy side of things, is what I love. So that's really where we like specialize in.
And gotcha. So let's talk a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of people, especially now with everything that's happened with COVID, and people are really coming to certain areas in their life where they're kind of like at an impasse, right? They've been wanting to do something for so long. Many people are at an impasse because they have to be. Maybe they're losing their job, or their jobs are just financially not making any money anymore, or they're coming to an impasse because they realize like, man, this is it. And I don't mean like this is it like we're dying, but I mean, this is a huge major life change that has happened. And I think what I've found is that many people start to make life changes during life changes, right? So now they can, and they realize that there's just so much more that can happen or not happen, good or bad in life. So why not just take a chance? So can you dive a little bit into, courses and, taking somebody's expertise and making it into a course where they really, really can help people, and like kind of dive into that a little bit more? Because some people, I think, they want to do something different. They just don't know where to start. And you were going to school to be a doctor on that path, right? And now you're creating courses. That's such a huge difference.
It's such a huge shift.
Yes.
Yes, I guess I'll start with what I see the true value in courses versus another modality, whether it be like a live workshop or traditional education, going to a college class or reading a book, because this is all ways to transfer information. A course to me is more of an implementation program. So you're going into it with the purpose of getting your customers to get results. And the only way that they're going to get results is if they actually take action on what it is that you're teaching them. So when I work with clients, I love to just really stay focused on what are the actions that they need to take in order to get to the end result. And if you start with that mindset, it's just a slight shift rather than asking, well, what information do they need to know, or what do I need to teach them? That leads the way usually to becoming an overinflated encyclopedia, which is not the purpose. Like, it's not to just give information. It's to get them to their desired result with as least headache and stress as they possibly can, and in the quickest amount of time.
Yeah. So I love that it's more of an implementation process. That is great, because truth be told, all the information that people need is on Google, right? You could Google pretty much anything, figure out how to do anything, but the implementation part of it and the actual taking the action steps and sticking to it is the problem that most people have, is the stick to itness. And it's like, what do I do next? How do I do this? It's hard for people.
Right. I mean, that's what people are looking for the most, because information is, we are absolutely inundated with it. And you can Google anything and everything that you could ever dream of or imagine online. But then it's also that the mass overwhelm that also becomes the value proposition for courses. So instead of looking at it as like, oh, there's so much information out there for free, that's actually where the overwhelm sets in. And yes, there's a lot of information, but you have to sift through the BS. You have to sift through like who's just talking just to talk, who actually knows what they're doing and has the results to prove it. And then that's where I think the personal brand and that trust and authority comes into play. So you do have to have that side of your business too that you're building, is to build the credibility and the authority side of it. So people do trust that you are the right person to learn from.
So then let's dive into that, because there are so many people out there, right? What's that saying? If you can't do, then teach. So many people I used to be a teacher. So and I used to be a realtor, and now I teach digital marketing. And so I hear all the time, well, if you were such a good real estate agent, why are you now teaching other real estate agents? And why are you teaching other digital marketers and business people? Why aren't you doing it? And I'm like, well, I actually was really good at it. And that's why I am teaching, because I kind of got to that level. But many people teach courses because they themselves couldn't do. So how does somebody know who to trust when it comes to purchasing a course? Like, what would you recommend? Because you deal with a lot of people that are mostly successful, I would assume.
Right. I mean, I would say just look for people that have actually achieved the results that you want to achieve. And I'm it is sometimes hard to sift through, again, the BS of people, like more people fronting than they actually, but there are credibility factors. And so I always say, like, my biggest value proposition, or the way that I differentiate myself from other people that have online courses, is that I have an entire agency that we do this every single day, like day in and day out. So the courses and the processes, and then the designs and the templates and everything that we're offering through my own online courses are things that we've used on a daily basis. And so, especially with technology, when it changes so rapidly, unless you're actually in the midst of it, it's hard to keep up with all those changes.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the biggest thing, is just look for the results, validate it multiple times. And I also think that you can just sense someone's genuineness, if that's even a word, through watching their content and interacting with them online, joining their free Facebook group, signing up for their email list, things like that.
Yeah, you can get to people sometimes watch. It's funny. There's different types of buyers. There's ones that just like buy right away, and there's some that like watch you for a year, depending on. So like watch who it is that you are going to like want to work with. Make sure you know what they're doing. So what would be the first place someone would start? I know you don't specialize in this, so forgive me for asking, but I'm sure you've kind of looked at all realms of course building, right? Because you're mostly going after somebody who already has a course that's successful and wants to kind of take it to the next level and make sure that they, perfect it. But what would you say for somebody that is newer to starting courses, or they really want to venture out, they're good at something, right? And let me kind of help with this too. Is like, you don't know, like inside of you, the things that you're great at that seem so easy to you, that just comes so naturally, but it's like you have this gift that some people would take that gift as, like it was like you were handing them a crown or something. But we take so many things that we're good at for granted. So where would you tell someone to start?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I always say we underestimate our strengths because they come so naturally to us. That's the definition of a strength. That it's a natural skill set that we have. Maybe we've made it better through training and just practice over the years. But I actually do. So the agency side of it is more for people that are already have a course, but then I also have the whole online course and training for more of the DIY market, where that would fit in very well with your question that you're asking. So the first step is essentially, first you want to validate the idea. You want to make sure that this is something that there's actually a market for. The best way of doing that is to search for other courses and programs and classes on that topic. And if there are other courses and programs, that's validating that there is at least a market. If there's not, so don't think of competition as a bad thing, as the negative thing. It's actually a validation. It's a good thing. If there's nothing on it, it's probably unlikely that you're the first person in the history of the world to come up with this idea. And maybe it's because there's not really that many people that want to pay for it. After that, then it would be to really begin to synthesize the information and putting it into a structure. So your course outline. And again, coming back to that action-oriented mindset, start with knowing where your customers are. So what is the problem? What's the pain point that they're trying to solve? That's the only reason someone's ever going to give you money, is if they feel like you have enough value. They value the information or the end result more than they value the money. And then second step is to figure out where they want to be. And from those 2 points, you can create that journey. And so from a very action-oriented mindset, what are those milestones that someone needs to take in order to get from A to Z? And then you can ask the question, okay, what's the information they need to know in order to take that action? And that course outline is going to be the foundation of your entire program. So starting to create content without that done is just a recipe for disaster. I always say it's like taking a bunch of money, throwing it in a pile and lighting a match and throwing it on the pile of cash and just watching it blow up in flames, because you're going to end up spending so much time creating content that's not going to be used, or you're like, oh, this fits better here. And it's just a waste.
Yeah. So basically you're bringing them through their customer journey from the beginning process with you to all the way to the end, and sort of piecing that into the right format and organizing it correctly so they actually can implement it, be successful. Got it. Okay, great. That's good advice. So what about like aesthetically, as far as, certain to-dos or not to-dos when course creating? Like, for example, when I first started creating my courses, and it was like 3 years ago, I thought longer is better. So I made these 1.5 hour long trainings. And then it was like, oh, I think people, they wanted like 6 or 9 minute trainings, right? So I had to redo everything. So are there any like to-dos, not to-dos regarding that kind of a thing?
Yeah, I would say try to keep it more bite-sized pieces. So to your point, typically the 1.5 hour videos, you want someone to be able to consume it, bite-sized snacks. So they can sit down in 15 minutes, take that lesson, and then go about their day, come back, take the next lesson, and be able to pick up very easily where they left off. So knowing that learning, like where they are, the progression of the course. And so if you have an 1.5 hour video, what you can do is you can basically just edit it to be multiple videos. So there's not like a right or wrong answer, but if I was to give you a just rule of thumb, typically you'd have like 6 modules within a course and then maybe 4 to 8 lessons within each of those modules. So like a book, a book would have sections within the book, and then they have chapters within each section. Your sections are like the modules, and then the chapters are like the lessons within each of the module.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, great. And then you mentioned earlier how you help people create courses and content where there's not a bunch of fluff, but it's actually like action and they're going right to it. So somebody should be able to, with a 6 to 8 module course with 4 to 8 lessons in each module, be able to take themselves from point A to point B for that specific task that they're trying to learn or that thing they're trying to become. Great. And what kind of courses have you seen created? Just I want to get people's their minds to start thinking about.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'd love to hear some just start.
I always laugh when someone's like, oh, do you have a specific industry? I'm like, no, not a specific industry at all. Everything from high frequency stock trading to crystal energy healing to for moms that are having their first baby to make their house green, getting all of the toxins out of it, to Ryan Levesque Ask Method Masterclass, bodybuilding, Ben Fikulski, a singing coach, everything in between. I'm trying to think of maybe the strangest. Creating a tanning business, so spray tanning, so many.
Yeah, that's so.
I've had a few in real estate. I've had a lot in entrepreneurship and marketing and business. The list goes on and on and on.
On and on. Yeah. So you talked about having a baby and making your house green. That is, I've never even knew that was a thing.
Yeah, it's actually a huge thing. So from just like the statistics, everything's going, no one wants the toxins, everything organic, the non-GMO, getting rid of the going into all natural makeup and your hair and all the beauty products that you use. So she actually has multiple mini courses on there as well, from beauty to the kitchen, and to household products. And then I forget what the other one was. Something around that nature.
Gotcha. And is there a sweet spot for price? Okay, so the best courses that sell the most are around X price?
Yeah, it's such a hard question to ask because it's really dependent on where it fits in your product suite. So there's sometimes you can have courses, and I have these as well, that are more of that entry level product, and then they move into a higher level program. So my example would be, I have the Perfect Lesson slide deck training and template, which is $27. Then it moves into the course master or course makeover, 3-day workshop. And then that's around $297. I don't know, everything ends with the 7. And then, and then the flagship program, Online Course Academy, is $2,000. And then you can go up there from the higher level masterminds. But a lot of clients do fall in that funnel because it works really well. It's not that people don't have the money or that they don't need the product. A lot of the times it's just they don't have the trust yet to invest in that higher level program. So giving those entry level programs is a great way to get them to know, like, and trust you more. And I think that's why it works so well. And also it depends on the industry. Typically, and this isn't always, there's always cases that fall out of this, but typically like health and fitness are going to be less than a course on business that you can prove the ROI very easily. based on when you're going to generate the money back. But then there's other ways to get people to understand the value that comes through the course, even though it might not be a monetary thing. But I have a client that's in like healing through divorce, and like, what does it how much would you pay to have your kids go through the divorce process in a way that doesn't traumatize them for life? That's priceless.
Absolutely.
And so it's really looking at like, what is that need that the customer wants, and then showing like understanding that there's so much value. Maybe it might not be like you can put a hard dollar amount on it, and then price becomes a little bit more subjective.
It's so funny. I always thought they needed a course on that. Because I've been divorced. It's been so many years, but I remember this is hard, like if somebody would teach you how to do it gracefully and so your kids can, be okay, that would have been amazing. And so many people get divorced, and I think a lot of people actually would want that. So the idea here is that, what are you good at? Many times you find something that you're good at by something negative that you've been through. A great example is a divorce, right? You go through a divorce and you notice a really bad problem that you went through, or you notice that you were able to get through something that maybe was bad in a good way. There's so many different things that you can create courses on that your expertise define, right? It doesn't have to be just be business something. It could be organization, or, we can, I'm sure Meghan can do much better than I can as far as what different ideas like she just kind of talked about. But there's so many ways that you can do things right now. And I think many people, they're afraid. So when you wanted to kind of venture out, Meghan, how did you take that leap of faith? That's a scary thing to do, leave the doctoral profession, being a doctor, and on that path to creating courses. What a huge risk, and what a great risk that you took, but it's a huge risk, and many people are afraid of doing that. What advice would you give around that?
Yeah, it is. I remember when my mom was like, "How are you going to get health insurance?" When I told her that was the number one concern. I'm like, "I don't know, Mom. I'll figure it out." But that, I guess, I think in the beginning, when people say you don't have to hustle, that's a lie. There's a stage of your life, the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey, where you do have to hustle. And so I worked, I maybe got 4 hours of sleep maximum for 6 months. I would go to my full-time job, come home, actually go to the gym, and then I would work on my business from 8 until 2 o'clock in the morning, and then get up at 6. And I did that for 6 months. And I got a few clients enough where I felt like I wasn't going to be homeless. I wasn't sure, but I thought there's a good chance I'm not going to be homeless. And at that point, then I just took the leap of faith. And I guess if worst comes to worst, you can always have a backup plan. I'm like, I guess I could move home with my parents if I needed to. Luckily I had that foundation. That would be the last freaking resort. But my ego would definitely be hit if that was the case. Luckily it didn't come to that. And then there was a few years of hustling. I worked a lot. And
how long did it take before you started seeing some success?
I was very fortunate where I started my first year in the green. So I was profitable, but I probably wasn't making as much as I was in corporate. It was about 2 years. And then things continue to go on the uphill from there.
Good. Okay. So I always end it. And first of all, I want to make sure that you're able to tell people where they can find more about your courses and all that great stuff. But in the meantime, I always ask everyone I end the podcast with one question. And that is, if you had to give one piece of advice, no matter if it was business or personal or whatever, any type of information at all, what would that one piece of advice be to people?
Ooh, I think it would be to learn to trust your intuition, especially for women. But men have it too. But I think even women more so. We have this gift that we sometimes tend to try to shut out. And anytime that I've felt that draw, or I felt that calling to do something, and I went for it with full faith, and things tend to work out. On the flip side, when I didn't listen to that intuitive nudge or whatever it may be, it usually proved to be right in a negative way later on. So that's something more on the wooish side, but I found it to be extremely valuable.
That's awesome advice. I think it's true. I think we're smarter than we give ourselves credit for sometimes. That little nudge that we get or don't get, we should listen to it more often. Okay. Now, how, Meghan, can people find out more about you if they're interested in maybe creating their own first course or learning more about what you do? How can they find out about you, or what product would you like to offer?
Yeah, so my website is Meghan K. Harrison. All my social media is the same at Meghan K. Harrison. And on my website, you can find a bunch of free offers. Online course Alchemy will let you go through this 3-module course that will really help you get your course up and running. So I think that'll be a great first start.
Great. Thank you. And so congratulations to your success working with people like Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. That is such a great accomplishment. Good for you. And I love that you said that you pretty much willed it into your life based upon visualization. Like you said, it was going to happen. And here you are. And it's happened.
Yep.
Okay, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed this episode just as much as I did. And thank you so much for your time. I know that's more valuable than anything else in the whole world is your time. So thanks for spending it with me and Meghan. And I appreciate you. And don't forget, it's great to sit back and listen and learn, but we don't want to be chronic learners. We want to be implementers. So make sure that you implement and have a super awesome day. Hey there, I have a brand new podcast called Fired Up with Krista Mashore, where I bring my high energy right to your ears. This podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms. So do me a favor, go subscribe and leave a review. All this information is free and I cannot wait to teach you everything I know. Thanks so much for watching my video. You can learn more about how to be a successful real estate professional by watching other videos that I have. And be sure to subscribe to my channel. And as always, make it a great home selling and buying day.